Hey peeps, another shamanic thread talk, right? So, in real shamanism, not the new age stuff, but real shamanism, there's a thing we call the flow. We kind of sarcastically joke about it and talk shit about it sometimes because it's just like it's a consciousness that we deal with. It's a consciousness that you can negotiate and cut deals with, but it's just the mass consciousness of nature, I suppose. I don't know. I'm sure people can channel it for me, right? Ask their cat. But it's just an interesting phenomenon. It's like we are sometimes. We joke about, are we really in a matrix? Are we really being simulated? Or why do we get these visions that come true? And how can we do these things? And blah, blah, blah. Sometimes we just overthink it to death, right? And so, but it does also have these unwritten laws that you just learn as you're going. And some people call it the laws of karma, whatever. And I just see everything as an energy equation. Right and wrongs are all perceptions and so on. And, what's right on this side of the world is not on the other and vice versa. But one of these things is on the karmic side is when people that are abusing the masses, they usually get some kind of a, I want to say a payback or something like that. It doesn't always seem like it, which makes me wonder if the cloning thing isn't a reality. The real bad guy gets it and somebody clones him and then now he just keeps on doing whatever. Who knows? But I have seen it where you get some real charlatans out there that are supposed to be life coaches, supposed to be spiritual leaders, talking about manifest destiny. Meanwhile, they're misusing their employees or getting people to work for free and stuff like that. And just leading people on, with no intention of giving them any kind of real benefit in life and just trying to keep everybody under their wing. And this has me branch off into, there's a fine, fine line dividing the great spiritual leader and the cult leader. And I say that because I've worked with a lot of guru junkies that move from guru to guru and all that, and they all tell the same story. And so what I do with my apprentices is like, well, here's what if they're going through an issue or somebody have a big breakthrough, it's like, here's where if I was a cult leader, I would tell you this, and that's to get you to keep, close to me and following my guidelines for my agenda and so on. But for you to be a unique person, I'm going to tell you this because this goes along with what you say you want to do. All I'm going to do is help you get a complete picture and just ask questions of things where I don't see a complete thought, because you want to have a balanced decision, and so on. So, but there's so many people that don't do that because the truth is that if you're in this as a new age business, and just about anything in life is a business, you want to keep your customers, keep your clients. That's why, I don't do 1 hour appointments like therapists do because I don't think you get that much done. I've talked to people for 3 hours and they're like, wow, I've figured it all out in the time that I've sat with you, and I've been going to a therapist for 20 years. I could go into exactly why that's like that, but there's no point on this video. But the point of it is if you're really good, you're going to work yourself out of a job. But you'll always have new clients coming to you because, people see the results of the people you work with and, they come back or they recommend you, which is a good thing. And yes, it's okay to get paid for this because life takes resources. Back in the old days, they would bring us firewood and food and stuff like that for an appointment. Now they give us pieces of material with dead guys' pictures on them. And then we go buy our firewood and food and stuff. But going back to what I was saying about these charlatans that are supposed to be these spiritual leaders, financial advisors, life coaches, and so on, usually they just don't have the experience that's needed to be really efficient. They got lucky with telling somebody some advice during coffee one day and you should be a life coach, or spiritually, and they get lucky at it. Here, let me give you an example of how you can be vague and be successful. You can have a tarot deck, throw out some cards, and go, oh yeah, you know, you're a very old soul. No one really understands you and appreciates the gifts you have to offer, you know, but you do have a great purpose in life, and it's about to be shown to you at any time. Yep, you have a hard time with relationships because people just don't understand your power. You just shift and you grow so fast spiritually that people can't keep up with you. Blah, blah, blah. People, yeah, you know, yeah, keep paying me and I'll keep giving you an awesome, perfect reading that one size fits all. You know, and they can do that. Just be vague, be encouraging, be sympathetic. Boom, you just get a great clientele, you know. But if you really want to be that good shaman, the good spiritual leader and so on, you're going to have to tell the people the truth. And it becomes an art of delivery. And that's why it's good to have my apprentices with me when I'm working so they can just see me shift and change into the part that I need to be. With some people, you have to be very encouraging. Some people, you have to be stern and realistic, you know, and there's people all in between. So what's getting ready to happen here down in the South Florida area, I'm saying here, in this point in time, somebody in the South Florida area, it's a big name, you know, a woman that's leads a lot of people, but kind of fits that charlatan description I was giving earlier, and who's not doing things very ethically, is about to be exposed in a huge scandal, a big crash and burn that's going to make national news, and that's going to create a void, all right? And people already have seen enough of this stuff happen, you know, in our country's history, you know, these real estate scams, Ponzi schemes and other stuff, and we don't like it. And we really don't like it when someone is a spiritual leader and then scams us. You know, and so nature doesn't tolerate a void. And so the way sometimes that the flow will work out, it's like that flow, that shamanic consciousness of earth is grooming someone to fill a position that's about to become open. And so while a lot of people will be scurrying and scampering to fill a position that just comes in and try to be the new spiritual leader that climbs up the financial ladder and can reap and do videos about living the lavish life, luxury, being that spiritual person, you know, people will be hesitant because they just watch somebody else saying the same thing is going to do better. But the nice thing is that people, no matter how much abuse and trauma they've been through, their soul knows the truth. The soul can see someone, and then when it's really that authentic person coming in there, they'll go, okay, this is the person I've been looking for, okay? Well, that person that's getting ready to come into that position is the shaman Elisa Glesvalle. All right, I'll get her to make a comment on here. The other woman that's going to crash and burn, I can't tell you that yet, okay? Because if that got around, she'll scamper and continue to scam people and get away with her stuff instead of meeting the karmic reconciliation she's about to experience. So, but Elisa is a real shaman and real proficient healer of the soul. And she does that in a really, really nice way. You know, she's kind of animated sometimes. She does these little funny skits in her videos and rooms, but you know, she's just humorous in general. Just a funny girl to be around. But when it comes down to the serious stuff, you know, she's always right on cue. She's always right in there in the center, and she's good to evaluate. It's like, this is where this person's coming from, and this is where I'm hearing they want to be. And I'll get into a description of the difference in another video, you know, but I won't be able to get them to that point for probably a couple years because of the time needed to do that kind of healing. And that's the reality check of it. So you need, when you're looking for that person, it has to take you into that healing phase. You need that person that can see those different levels. And because you can go through a process too far and too fast, and your physiology won't be able to keep up with it. And that can cause a whole new other set of problems. So, but Elisa's been very good in her track record of working with people. And another trip that I'm going to make shortly, and meeting her in Spain, going through some other things with some people, including one woman who's terminally ill, sent home to, doctor sent her home to die. But we're going to, anyway, so that woman is recovering, doing a lot better. And we're going to work with her and some other people. I'll be part of a speaking event there. And then we're just going to go over some of the other power structures that are going to come up for her as she makes this great move, you know, to assume that a role is going to be opening position in, you know, the Southeast Florida area. And so the people, we'll keep up with on this, and you know, I don't like scandals. You know, I'm not one to, like, you know, do aha moments or something like that, because it's a lesson that people are going through, and we've all done it, you know, learned our lessons in different ways and played our different parts and so on. But we will use this moment as kind of an education for things not to look for when you're looking for that mentor, things not to buy into, the signs of that person that's more of the cult leader or selfish mentality compared to the person, the real spiritual leader that wants you to be the best version of you, right? And it's going to be an interesting time period that'll probably last through the holidays, you know, and hopefully a lot of people will learn a lot of lessons from that. If you look at my through my videos, you'll see I did a podcast with her a while back, and you can just kind of check her out from there. And I will be doing more of these videos here as I close. I mean, I'm really on the retirement end of shamanism. I work with very few people these days. I recommend them to the shamans that I took through apprentices. These acorns are falling all over the place, you know, and which are really good people, you know, younger people, half my age. You know, I just want to hang out on my boat and go fishing for the rest of my life and hang out with grandkids, you know. But on another note, the lessons that are going to come from this and the other things that I'm going to associate with these videos is to help you prepare for some harder times that are coming up in the future. You know, and I like to keep things real simple. See, these harder times that are created, they're created by people who want to rule your life in every aspect. We all know that. And they come from different groups with different agendas and backgrounds and so on. But the only thing that really allows them to be able to do this is people. Just not accepting their own divinity in any religious or spiritual background that you want to call it. Not accepting their own personal truths. They're just trying to fit in with the mainstream just to be accepted. You know, we're still pack animals, human beings, and we still have a problem with rejection. This stems way back to the tribal days, you know, where rejection meant death. So it was a survival thing to be accepted. But at the same time, if you're willing to go through that little bit of a discomfort for your own personal empowerment, and you like the idea of having your full-time jobs as being helping people, the shamanic path could be just what you're looking for. Okay? And I have apprentices that can help people get started off in their apprenticeships, and I have shamans that I've trained that served apprenticeships that are very proficient, have great track records, you know, that could help you get started in that. And I still oversee a lot of cases, so I'm still part of it, you know, because it takes years to get a good technique. These people that have not gone through apprenticeships, not gone through any kind of real training, that call themselves shamans are just scams, all right? And when you listen to them talk, they're just like regurgitating stuff they read out of some New Age flake book. And it has no real reference, and shamanism does have scientific backing behind it. It's a wonderful time right now to be in the shamanism because scientists and their little instruments are proving all the stuff that we've known for millennia. You know, so it shows up on their instruments. Oh, by golly, it's real. It's one of the most entertaining things ever. You know, so check her out, Lisa Glesvalle. And I'll probably just do that here to quit this video. Check out my Instagram, Shaman Hawk, same profile picture, all that. I'm doing this interesting magic with the sea bags. They're acting just like large medicine bags. The equations that we're playing with these types of articles is just really interesting. And I'm really happy because I finished my apprenticeship in 1978. And it's nice when you get deeper into the real shamanism, you can still be surprised. And that's what I just love about this line of work. You know, some of the most amazing things that I've seen. And to this day, I still keep seeing different things about the beautiful, intricate complexities of humanity. You know, and that's one of the things why I speak out against some of the wrongs that are being done by big pharma and stuff like that, because the divine nature of a human being, if it's left to grow or encouraged, cleaned up from trauma and stuff like that, does these things that people call miracles. But all that stuff is not. It's not a miracle. It's just the way humanity's supposed to be. It's the way humanity will just turn into. It can't help but not do that. The human nature cannot help but become an example of this pure divine self and connectedness with nature, unless it's traumatized, poisoned, brainwashed and everything, and then it'll just become this compliant zombie and so on. I mean, I keep saying we could have paradise on Earth, you know, in a very, very short amount of time, if just a tiniest percentage of the people really wanted it and really wanted to strive for it. It would happen. Check out some of the videos of like 100th monkey theory, you know, and just put that to people just wanting peace on Earth and a wonderful life. And it would happen. And the people who are trying to manipulate everything, control everybody, wouldn't be able to because they'd just be lost, you know, because the people would have that, you know, uninhibited connection to source, not by training, not by courses or anything, just because that's who we are. I know it sounds so simple, right? But as I tell so many people in so many lectures and workshops, it's like all of this stuff is incredibly simple if you just get out of the way. When people are trying to do these courses, they're trying to convince you to somehow go over, you know, the brainwashing and programming that you've been subjected to your whole life. Well, that's not going to work. You'll get a temporary relief just because you heard something new, but the real validity of true teachings is the lasting effect of the exercise. So many people go to retreats and everything and come back, and then it just wears off. And then they have to go back to that retreat, go back to that ceremony, go back. No, if here, it's like you've been infected by a weird social disease, right? And you go to get antibiotics, but you take them and you're fine, and then it comes back as a super infection. Well, probably because you weren't given the right antibiotics at the right dose for the right amount of time. That's why it comes back as a super infection. And the same thing with retreats, spiritual practices, therapies, and stuff like that. It's just not the right mix. And then people say, oh, then how do you know the right mix? I won't until you tell me. People, I don't know what I need. I listen to people, and they will tell me exactly what's wrong with them by what they tell me directly. And if I just listen in between the lines, that person's going to tell me exactly what they need and how they need it and for how long. So the thing about this kind of work is you have to be a really good listener, and you have to understand what you're hearing. And you don't get that from courses. Okay? You get that with time. So with people that say they're shamans, that haven't been doing this long and they just channel the information, bullshit. Okay? Just plain old new age flaky bullshit. It's a technique that you learn over the years. And here I am, and all the time I've been doing it, I'm still learning. Because people, humanity as a mass, is changing. I learned all this traditional stuff, years and years ago that I just don't do. I wish I understood quantum physics more. That's the truth of it. Because people are that complex. Every time they make a huge breakthrough in science, that consciousness of that goes through the rest of humanity, and people take it in as they can. Not everybody the same way. And so the techniques that I used 20 years ago, that with great results, they don't have the same effect on the people of the more industrialized Western world. In other countries, they will, because of the mass consciousness, like that. And that's not saying anything bad about the people. It's just the capability of their understanding. That's just the truth of it. Anyway, I said I was going to get off here, right? And keep it kind of short, but I'm not even sure what to call this video, but I'll figure it out. Till then, I will catch you guys later. Like, subscribe, share them. Let's kind of make this a team effort to not make, the Agenda 2030 or all these other projected images of our doomed future. But let's all do a collective effort to making paradise on earth, a sustainable paradise on earth, something sensible that we're really proud of to be able to leave behind to our children, grandchildren, and our cultures. Catch y'all later.